Hi, welcome to my channel. I have reviews on two items today. The first one is the Hourglass Vanish Stick Foundation in the color Alabaster. The second one is the Huda Beauty Emerald Obsessions. I love one of them. I'm not real crazy about the other one. So why don't you stick with me and see what I have to say about these products. So the first product is the Hourglass Foundation Stick. And this is, like I said, the color Alabaster. It's got 0.25 ounces in it, which isn't a whole lot, and it costs $46, so it's extremely expensive. I am not real crazy about this product. I'm wearing it right now, and it has kind of a satin matte finish. I've watched a lot of other YouTube reviews for people who have dry skin who have absolutely loved this product. I am a neutral, about a 15 on the MAC scale, and the color Alabaster is a perfect match for me. I lean a little bit cool, which Alabaster is a cool undertone. I thought I was gonna love it. I thought it was going to be like Estee Lauder Double Wear because I have seen so many reviews on it and so many people have praised it, and they have the same kind of skin that I have, which is dry, kind of large pores. And what I noticed about the foundation after wearing it for 4 days is it gives me polka dot pores, which I hate. It looks terrible. It just looks like you have little dots. Like it all settles into your pores, and so you've got little dots in your pores. It also wore off really quickly, and I kind of expected that because it is a stick foundation. They do tend to wear off a little bit faster, but I was surprised at how fast it wore off. It was within, the first time I wore it, within 4 hours, it was completely gone on my chin, and you could see all my capillaries. I have a lot of red capillaries right around this area. Completely wore off. I tried 3 different powders with it to try to get it to set well enough that it would last all day, and nothing worked. I tried a setting powder, I tried a finishing powder, and I tried a powder foundation, and none of them worked, unfortunately. It still wore off before the 8-hour mark. It has a satin finish, but it's a little bit more matte in my opinion. And this is what really surprised me because nobody with dry skin for the reviews that I watched mentioned this, but it really clings to my dry patches. I have a lot of dry patches on my nose, especially on the corner of my nose, and it accentuates all of those. Whereas my Estee Lauder Double Wear, which is my holy grail, I still have those same dry patches, but it doesn't accentuate them. It doesn't cling to them. So I was really surprised for a stick foundation to do that. I guess I think one of the reasons this foundation is so popular is because it should work with oily skin. I think a lot of these foundations that are stick foundations tend to kind of slide around if you have oily skin, but because this has a little bit more of a matte finish, I could see it working really well with oily skin. I do have dry skin, but it's not like super dry. I put a ton of moisturizer on before I put on my foundation. I put a ton of moisturizer on every night as well, and I don't wash that away in the morning, so I have a lot of layers of moisturizer on, and it just still really clung to those dry patches. And for my skin type, for me, I just can't really recommend this, and I'm actually going to take it back to Sephora because it's expensive. It's like $46. That's just for 2.5 ounces. That's just a little too much for me to be spending for something that I don't absolutely love. All right, this product, the Huda Beauty Emerald Obsessions, I love it. It is amazing. I'm an eyeshadow junkie. I've tried out a zillion different formulas. This is really a great formula. The one thing I don't like about this palette is it's made in China. Why? It's $27. I mean, that's not cheap given how small the palette it is. So I was a little disappointed to see it's made in China, but the formula is good. I'm going to put in some swatches for you so you can see these colors a little up close. These are swatches that are done in natural light. Number 1 is this one right here, and it's this color right here. And that is a bright chartreuse green with strong warm undertones. It's kind of a glitter, to be honest. It's not the easiest to work with. I would recommend using your finger or using a damp brush when you're using that color. This is Emerald number 2, and this is a mint green with very subtle warm undertones. To me, it's kind of a sage green, and it's extremely light. Works really well as a transition shade. I enjoy it a lot. Shade number 3 is a medium green with warmer undertones, has a metallic finish. This is one of my favorites. It's absolutely gorgeous and is extremely easy to work with. Number 4, which is this shade here, and this is a deep forest green with subtle warm brown undertones. It has a black base, at least it looks like it does to me. It's pretty easy to work with. It's a nice shade for deepening the outer V. And this is number 5, and number 5 is absolutely gorgeous. Very easy to work with. It's a medium teal with subtle cool undertones and a sparkling finish. Love it. All right, so this is number 6, and this is a medium teal with cool undertones and a matte finish. It's not super pigmented, but I actually prefer that because it means I don't leave the house looking like a clown. This is number 7, and 7 is a muted medium green with strong warm olive undertones and a matte finish. This is great for going in your crease and deepening up that crease and adding some depth. Number 8 is a rich olive green with warm undertones and a metallic finish. It's this one right here. And yeah, this is just another great one for deepening out the V. Number 9 is a bright light lemony yellow with warm undertones and a metallic sheen. Love this color. It's one of my favorites. It doesn't show up very well. Let me see if I can get a little closer. It's not showing up real well in this natural light, but it is gorgeous on the eye and very easy to work with. So this palette is not super pigmented, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. If you see this green color right here, I'm going to swatch that for you. See it? Right there. I have the Atlantis palette that's from Face Candy. It has a green in it that is in the pan, it looks exactly the same shade. I mean, exactly, it's right here. I'm gonna swatch this for you and I'll show you what I mean by this palette isn't the Huda Beauty palette isn't super pigmented. Watch this. You see how pigmented that is? But here's the reason that I actually like the fact that this Huda Beauty palette is not as pigmented. I don't leave the house looking like a clown. Every time I have tried to use the Atlantis palette as a standalone, I leave the house looking ridiculous because it's so pigmented. This palette, you really have to build the colors up, and because you have to build the colors up, you never leave the house looking like a clown. I also want to say that a lot of the consumers have been asking for an interesting color story, kind of a full color story with purples or greens or blues, and this is what we're talking about. This palette has this beautiful sage green transition shade, and that's what I used as my transition shade in this look. But it also has this gorgeous olive green matte, and that's what I use to deepen up my crease. And then you have these different finishes. You have metallic finishes, you have shimmer finishes, you have some satin finishes, and you have different tones of color. So you have light tones, you have medium tones, you have deep tones, you have everything you need to make a complete look except for that cream colored shade to set your primer, which to me is no big deal because I have a million of those. But you have every color that you need to make a gorgeous green look. You can get a whole lot of different looks from this just because you have such a nice variance of tones in it. That's what you need in a good color story to be able to come up with a whole lot of different looks that don't all morph together and look like every time you put the palette on your eye that you're getting the same array of colors, the same kind of look. In closing, I did not enjoy the foundation stick. I will be returning this, but I love the Huda Beauty and I actually want to go purchase more of her products because I enjoyed this so much. So if you want to stick with me, I'll show you the tutorial next. I am about a neutral 15 on the MAC scale, and this is in shade Alabaster, and it's just about a perfect match for me. And I just follow the instructions. I swipe it across my face. I do have a hydrating primer on. I do find I have to use a decent amount of it to get the coverage that I want. To me, it has a satin matte finish. It is full coverage, but I would say it's a little bit on the lower end of the full coverage in my opinion, even using this much product. What I do is just buff it in my skin. And you really don't need to use a beauty blender for this. I find that most stick foundations tend to go on better with a brush. Usually just a dense buffing foundation brush works the best. It wears off very quickly on my chin, so I like to put a little bit of extra there and buff that in again just so that it stays put for a little bit longer. If you want to give it a really skin-like finish, you can take your damp beauty blender and just pat it on, kind of stamp it across your face, and that will really give it a skin-like finish. And I noticed that it doesn't seem to remove the product either because the product is so thick. And because it has a little bit more of a matte finish, it doesn't seem like it reduces the full coverage. My foundation is on and I just put primer on my eyelids and I set it using cream colored powder. I'm gonna go in with shade number 2 and I'm going to put that in my crease. And I'm gonna use a really stiff crease brush to do that. In order to get enough pigment to show up, you kind of need a stiffer brush because this is a pastel color. It's beautiful, but it is very light and pastel. It's a buildable color, so I'm dipping in about 4 times and putting that in my crease. And because I have hooded eyes, I like to go above my crease, so I go up pretty high. You can see that's just a real subtle, pretty sage green color. I'm going to take color number 7, which is this color right here, and I'm going to use a less dense crease brush because this color picks up a lot easier. And I'm just going to put that in my crease. This is a perfect shade for your crease to help deepen it. Give your eye that illusion of depth, especially if you have hooded eyes. It's a very buildable shade. I like to dip in about 2 to 3 times. I'm going to take my Morph crease brush. This is M433. And I'm going to dip into that same shade again, and I'm just going to put it lower in my crease. And this is going to help deepen up the eye look even more. Give that shadowy effect that gives the illusion of having a deeper set eye. And I'm going to use my blending brush that I used earlier, and I'm just going to blend all that out. I'm going to take color number 6, which is this color right here, and I'm going to put that in my V. This color is not super pigmented. You're definitely going to have to spend some time building it up. So I'll be dipping in there several times. I'm going to take my blending brush and I'm going to blend that out. Some of that color blended away, so I'm going to dip in again and add some more. I'm even going to go up in my crease just the tiniest bit. So you've got that real pretty olive green in my crease. And then you're also going to have some of this pretty teal up there as well. Not a lot, just a little. I'm blending that out again. I'm going to wet a flat shader brush. I'm going to dip it into shade 9. And I'm going to put that in the inner 1/3 of my eye. This is one of my favorite colors in the palette. It's very easy to work with, very opaque, has a beautiful metallic sheen to it. It's just gorgeous. Even my husband has commented on how pretty it is. And he doesn't comment on makeup very often, so that was fun. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to go into, I think I'm going to do shade number 3, which is this shade right here. And I'm going to pat that in the center of my lid. I'm going to take shade number 4, which is this shade right here. I'm going to use that defining brush and I'm going to put that in my outer V. This color is extremely pigmented, so you don't really need a whole lot of it. Then I'm going to gently blend it. I don't want to muddy the colors up, so I'm not going to go too far into the center of my eye. This is how the look turned out, so I'm going to go do my hair and the rest of my makeup, and I'll be back in just a minute. I did forget to mention in my review of the Huda, I can't say that, the Huda Beauty Emerald Obsession palette, that I worn it all day 4 times and had absolutely no issue 3 of those times. I had no creasing. There was one day that it literally lasted over 12 hours without any creasing. The darker shades did fade a little bit, but it was nothing too significant. The eye look still looked gorgeous even after 12 hours. However, there was one day where I just did a real easy look and I just used the matte shades, and then I put this shade right here, the number 3 shade, all over my lid. And I was outside for soccer games. My kids play soccer on Saturdays. And I was outside for like 3 hours watching their games, and it was 20-mile-per-hour winds, and it wasn't hot out. It was in the 70s, but the sun was beating down on me, and that shade slid everywhere. It just went, I mean, it was kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it creasing. I guess it was kind of creasing, but it was just sliding around my lid and didn't look good. But the other 3 times that I wore it, I had absolutely no issues. So I think it was just the sun and the wind combined that caused it to get probably caused my eyelid to get oilier than usual, and it just caused some issues. But other than that, this palette wears great and it lasts forever with minimal to no creasing. So that's all I have today. If you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful to you at all, please give it a thumbs up. I would love it if you would subscribe to me. Leave a comment down below if you own any of the Huda Obsession palettes or if you've tried the Huda formula. I'm curious if you really enjoy it because I'm thinking about getting more of these or even getting one of her larger palettes. So let me know below if you enjoy her formula as well. I'm also curious if the Hourglass foundation stick works for you, and if it does, what is your skin type? I'm really curious if maybe this works better for oily skin types than it does dry skin types, although some of the YouTube videos that I saw of YouTubers really enjoying this, they had dry skin too. So I don't really know why it doesn't work for me, but I just want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.